Let's start with a look ahead to this weekend. It's another busy one. We've got the return of the Euro Tour, the Baltic Sea Darts Open, the first stop on the 2023 Euro Tour, and also the first 4 Women's Series events of the year. So what are you most looking forward to about this weekend of darts that we've got coming up?
Well, it is a little tough to answer it right now because we don't yet know exactly who will be playing in the Women's Series as of the time we're recording. But I think I'm more actually looking forward to the Women's Series than the Euro Tour, just because I think there's so much to play for this year. We've seen at the back end of the year, obviously, the breakout for Bo Greaves, who decided not to go to Q School, but was undefeated across the 8 Women's Series events. She has since then lost a match at the Dutch Open, losing to Aline de Graaf there, but for the most part has been nearly unbeatable. But there's a lot of players right behind her who have been stepping up their games of late. Obviously, Lisa Ashton and Fallon Sherrick have been the two that, up until Bo decided to give the Women's Series a go at the back end of last year, had been dominating. And Fallon is now playing the best that she's played in quite some time. She came, she was in one of the tour spots entering the final day of Q School. She didn't get the result she needed in the final day, but she was right in there in the thick of it all throughout and was playing at a very good standard, the best standard we've seen from her pretty much in a year and a half since she made that Grand Slam quarterfinal, since she made the final of the Nordic Darts Masters. So she seems to be back playing at or near her best. And if she's playing at or near her best, she's as good or nearly as good as Bo Greaves. That means that there will be the potential for a real challenge that we haven't seen from Bo face across those 2 Women's Series so far. Obviously, Lisa Ashton had a very good performance at the World Seniors. Doesn't seem like she's the same player she was a couple years ago, but she still is a formidable foe, and she still can beat either of those 2. And as often as they'll beat her. But there's other players who have emerged recently. I mentioned Aline de Graaf winning the Dutch Open, making the final last year of the Women's World Match Play. There's a lot of signs that are pointing towards Aline ready to not take that next step, but retake that step to reemerge as one of the top players. Of course, she was a former number 1 in the BDO. She's been around for a while, but through the pandemic, we didn't see as much of her. We haven't seen her play at those levels that she was in 2017, 2018, 2019. Now she is, and that gives her that chance, assuming she's playing the Women's Series, to really keep pushing and showing that it's not a big 3, it's a big 4 or a big 5 or a big 6, depending on who else you throw in, because Mikuru Suzuki, obviously 2-time world champion, if she's playing. And there's other Japanese players who have come over and put in a really good effort. I'm curious to see how the Women's Series kicks off, because there really is a lot of questions in the air in a good way. There are a lot of players who seem to be playing well or improving entering this, and it's going to give Bo, hopefully, more of a challenge than she had experienced the first 2 times. And I don't say hopefully because I want Bo to lose. I say hopefully because I want to see some good matches. One of the matches of the year last year was that Women's Series match from Women's Series 7, where Bo Greaves took out the 1-4-8 and ended up beating Fallon Sherrick 5-3, and that's what jumped her into that, at the time, would have been the second and final world championship spot. Fallon, of course, still got one via winning the Women's World Match Play earlier in the year. I want to see more matches like that, and I think we might looks like there are 4 or 5, maybe 6 women who are playing at a standard that could win a tournament. And who knows, maybe some more will emerge. Euro Tour, obviously, it's the best tour in darts. Dan Dawson will stop listening to us if we don't admit that, because it is true. It is the best tour in darts. But there's 13 of those over the course of the year, and we'll have plenty of a time to talk about it. There's only 6 Women's Series weekends, and this first one, I think, is the most interesting because there is all to play for, and there's that 8 spots in the Women's World Match Play coming up in July. Half the season's already gone because I was at the back end of last year. I'm more interested this time around for the Women's Series than I am the Euro Tour. Well, because of all the reasons I just said.
It's hard to argue with that, really, because, and I'll start with the Women's Series as well. And you mentioned Bo Greaves. One of the main talking points going into this weekend of darts is who is going to end Bo Greaves' winning streak. We talked about Bo recently falling short in the final of the Dutch Open to Aline de Graaf, but coming into this weekend, she still has that long winning run on the PDC Women's Series going back to last year, played 52 matches won 52 matches, lost 0, 8 titles from 8 tournaments entered. It was a truly astonishing record. And yeah, one of the things I'm looking forward to seeing is if she can keep that run going. Can she get it to 9 titles in a row, even 10, or even another clean sweep, make it 12 in a row? But I think it's going to be a very tough ask. But who would have predicted Bo to go 4 out of 4 and then 8 out of 8 last year? But as you mentioned, you look at some of her biggest rivals, Lisa Ashton, who pushed Neil Duff close in the World Seniors Championship in quite easily the game in the first round. It was the best game that I watched in my 2 days at the Circus Tavern. And Fallon Sherrick, who you mentioned as well, who had one of her best ever weeks at Q School and just finished a few wins short of a tour card, but she was in contention going into that last day. So both of them are going to come into this first Women's Series weekend of the year in good spirits, and they're going to want to add some titles to their collection and at the same time bring this incredible run from Bo Greaves to an end. And aside from those 3, though, I'm interested to see what the entries are going to be like for this weekend in Leicester, because the Women's Series, as we know, has been extended to 24 events this year, but also that the prize money, the PDC, are a big investment in the women's game. They've doubled the prize money for these events, so $2,000 on the line for each title. And as you touched on with the Women's World Match Play, we've still got, 12 more events to go before the cut-off for that. And with the extra prize money that's going to be up for grabs in these first 2 or 3 weekends, it's open for a lot of players to have a good run and push themselves into those 8 spots. You're looking at the likes of an Anastasia Dobromoslova, who made a return to the Women's Series at the end of last year, Rhiannon O'Sullivan, Robin Byrne, who we've seen have good runs in this before. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the entries, because it's been hovering around that 80 to 100 range all of last year. And I said in one of my wishes for 2023, I want to see one weekend hit that 128 entries and give us that full last 128. So maybe we'll see it this weekend, who knows. And just on to the Euro Tour again, we've seen only last week an announcement on the prize money. That's going to be increasing along with the UK Open as well. But $30,000 for winning a Euro Tour, up from $25,000 it was last year and for a long time. And with these Euro Tours, you're going to get used to it this year when we record this show, that the draw's not out until a Thursday, but after we record. So a lot of the big names, they are going to be in Germany for this first one of the year. We're going to see almost a full house of Premier League players. You've got Michael van Gerwen, Michael Smith, Gerwyn Price, Peter Wright, Nathan Aspinall, Johnny Clayton, Dimitri van der Berg, the one player missing, Chris Dobie. We're assuming he's got other things on his mind. He's going to be at Wembley watching Newcastle in the League Cup final, but he'd have had to win through the qualifiers to get there. And looking at the list of qualifiers, you've got some more former Premier League players in there: Raymond van Barneveld, James Wade, Adrian Lewis, Daryl Gurney, Stephen Bunting. So it's a very strong lineup of players for this first Euro Tour of the year, and probably going to be one of the most star-studded lineups for a Euro Tour this year, because there's going to be times during the year where we are going to see some of the bigger names that the Premier League players skip the event. So yeah, I'm looking forward to enjoying the darts, and something that I'll remind all of you to do later on in the show, I'm sure.